We do have a quorum present all here except for Shelton Gilmore. And we'll stand for pledge of allegiance on the flags. You just pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, thank you for allowing us to join tonight. And Father, thank you for our soldiers who never made it home on this Memorial Day. We have to keep them in our memories and their families. Father, we just ask that you keep us making the best decisions we possibly can for the citizens of our land. In your name we pray. Amen. No citizens communication? No citizens. Workshop agenda, review, discuss, and provide directions, presentation, update, discussion on the fiscal year 2025 budget.
Mayor and Council, so we do have a draft of the FY 2025 budget. It's still in a preliminary stage, but wanted to go over it with you all so that we can start to think about the things that you would like to see included in the budget. Right now, what you've got is a good idea of what the base needs to be based on trends that I'm seeing with actual costs across all of our spending categories.
I think we get that a better deal.
We just buy from Ozarka.
We'll do a direct pipeline from them. So the priorities that I've heard from you all has been to invest in the infrastructure. We've talked earlier this year about employee retention and also recruitment. The council's done a few things in that regard that we've also talked about implementing in the budget. The other thing has been just growing the fund balance and fiscal health. Earlier this year, if not late last year, there was a financial policy that was adopted and that really sets some of those targets and goals that we want to adhere to. The enterprise fund solvency, so the electric, the water, the sewer, garbage, that's an enterprise that needs to act like a business. That's essentially what enterprise fund means. And so in short, you want to have have a business like activity, not only whatever they have to expend, you also want to bring that money back, right? They need to be able to be solvent. There shouldn't be any money coming from the general fund to help save those funds. They're the ones that are kind of like the cash cows of the city, right? They're the ones that create the revenue that help support a lot of what we do for our residents and throughout our community. And then also just talking about some collaboration with entities, which has been talked about at a few council meetings. So in investing in infrastructure, that is billions. I will change that to millions. So looking at the CIP here, a lot of this is what we are working on in FY 2024. So you can see those kind of sorted first. And then you've got what we're hoping to have in FY 2025. There is some play numbers that we've essentially plugged in because we haven't quite secured funding. So that's what you'll see as TBD. But while we haven't secured funding, this is a good to have because now what needs to guide us for the future years as we look at grant applications that we want to go out for. Here's the pressing needs. And then another thing that I'll plug in here as well is that the mayor and I, we've talked about the need for a water master plan. And so what that would do, and that's actually something that I wanted to update you on, Mayor, that the ARPA funds can be used for that. So that's something that I may bring back at the next meeting to task order. But what that water master plan essentially does is it looks at our entire system. They get a model of our system. They look at it and say, here's where you need to have improvements. Here's where a good, replacement plan would be. every year, every 5 years, every 10 years, that would help guide that CIP. And then also, here's the major infrastructure that you need in order to continue to increase the capacity you have, especially as this corridor sees growth. And that's going to be key so that we can kind of get as ahead as we can on that curve, because we'd hate to be in kind of the position we're in right now, whereas we've got developers that want to come to Bartlett, but we're not just ready yet to serve because we don't have that wastewater plant that has that excess capacity. Right now, what we've got is what we can serve for our current customers and just a little bit more, but we want to increase that capacity. From employee recruitment and retention, some of the things that the council's done is going from that TMRS 2-to-1. Then also there was that market study that was done, and several positions were under market. And so that's one where we're going to want to increase those. And the direction I received from council when that was provided was, let's do that in FY 2024. And so this budget shows that. And then also from a future staffing needs, not necessarily what's included in this budget, but just kind of looking at what the city may need in the years. So one of the more pressing ones, and I'm sure the chief would agree, is, to have minimum staffing just for 24-hour coverage would be 4 officers and then a chief. Right now we've got the chief, an officer, and a vacancy. So one way to kind of start growing that is to hopefully adding an additional officer in fiscal year 2025. Late last year, Chief and I met with the superintendent and talked about a possible partnership to have BISD have an SRO. We had an officer in mind at the time. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But the thought was that they'd be able to have an SRO because I think right now they're doing the Guardian program, but having that extra safety of having a police officer, which does help. I know that there's been some incidences that have happened at the school district where having that officer come in has been really handy. But having someone on site would be ideal. And with that, there'd be a possible shared cost. And what we discussed was either an 80-20 or a 90-10 split, but we didn't move far from there just because they weren't quite in a budget year. And I think y'all are in one now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so possibly something to have a discussion with the superintendent and the school district on is, maybe doing an SRO again. But the gap there would be having somebody that we could make an SRO. And then from a code enforcement perspective, about there being a opportunity to share that with other cities. So I did have that meeting with Little River Rogers Academy, and they're kind of getting other cities to see who might be joining on board. And hopefully here mid-June, we'll have a good idea of what that looks like. But from kind of what I'm seeing, and I'll bring it up later, is maybe $10,000, $12,000 for the city to put in to have a code enforcement officer. Yes, there'd be split time, but you'd have a dedicated person who may come here, once or twice a week. That that's what they're focusing on, that's what they're doing, and then it frees up our police department so that they can work on the calls, the cases, running traffic and anything else that they may need to do as well. And then from a public works, there's been talk about transitioning one of the current staff members to just meter reads, ground, easement, right-of-way maintenance, the parks, things of that nature, doing that full-time. That would certainly keep them busy all year round. That's something that the council, if they decided to, could go ahead and do now. But I would say that in the future, there's going to be needed at least an additional public works crew member, and then hopefully 2 more. Just that, then you'd be able to essentially have 2 teams kind of working on things throughout the city. And that's one thing that our superintendent that starts tomorrow is going to be working on as well. But having that additional help is going to be key, just given that we have aging infrastructure, we have breaks every day. Then you'd be able to have somebody working on active leaks and someone else working on some of the, work orders that that we get created. And then from an administration, as was mentioned, was, possibility of making the city secretary position a full-time position that can focus on the agenda planning, the minutes, the records retention, open records request, and somebody that you can possibly grow to hold other administrative duties within City Hall itself, and then you'd be able to kind of have other people kind of divest and just focus on certain other things. But not something that's necessarily needed right away, because again, as we talked about, there's going to be a need to kind of hold off on some of these things for maybe a year or two. Hopefully, as property taxes continue to, we see increases with values, and then also just more people coming into Bartlett, that I'm hoping that that'll just only increase the revenue so that we can add some of the staff. And so just for future reference, what a proposed organization chart would look like if we had everybody that we had, right? Just kind of what that would look like. I wanted to give this to you all before my last day, just so that y'all had it for future reference if need be. And then another goal, growing the fund balance and the fiscal health. So in the policy that was adopted, what was noted was that we need to have an unassigned fund balance of 3 months of budgeted expenditures. And so what that essentially means is, based on the expenditures you normally see for the city for each month, times it by 3, that's what you need to have in fund balance. Right now, our accounts do not have that. I'd say probably it's hard to split it out because it's all in one commingled fund. But the target fund balance that we'd like to have in the general fund is $349,000, and then in the utility fund, essentially $700,000. Right now, we're nowhere near that. I think all in all, we're probably at $100,000 in just actual fund balance, and that ebbs and flows as we have unexpected costs come up. This past year, we've had to spend on an emergency manhole that cost us probably $50,000 to $65,000. There's been increased costs from electric, just given that we've had to call tech line for almost everything, and we did have salary savings, but that would have been a nice other savings to have, where I think staff may have come in a little bit more inexpensive. But as the budgets get developed year in, year out, trying to make sure that the revenues exceed the expenses, maybe by 50,000, maybe by 100,000, and each year just kind of starting to put some of that cash away so that we have that fund balance there. And then where the city ever need it, it's there. You now have a little bit more wiggle room, a little bit more breathing room, which would be nice. And then also just working through things that we're doing right now. So the rate study is going to be key. That is going to help make sure that the electric, water, wastewater are paying for themselves. And what I mean by that is we've continued to see costs across the board increase, from equipment, from lines, meters, even for electric, there's the T-cost. T-cost. That only continues to increase from everybody else that we pay. We pay like 24 entities essentially for transmission. It's like a bypass that they bill us for using their systems to bring power to us. And so when the rates have been developed, I can't quite say what was taken into account when they were developed, but now we will know that our actual budget and the 5-year, what they do is a 5-year outlook of what the budget will probably be. They say, here's what you actually need your rates to be at to be able to keep up with this. And so June 24th, I believe, is when they'll come back, and it's the next slide, and show the council what proposed rate structures might be. And I think that that's going to be key to having the utilities work towards that utility fund balance that's needed for that $700,000. It's quite a lot of money, but that's also broken out between electric, water, and sewer, and trash. And then collaboration with entities, as we talked about, the opportunity to possibly meet with the school district to do some partnership if they're interested on an SRO, and then what
Yeah,
that,
I need to meet with them pretty soon.
Yeah.
Let's get into that point.
yeah, I'll reach out. And the chief and I, yeah, chief and I can reach out, and then the essentially what would that would look like if it was a 90-10 split, right? From a one-time cost on vehicles, equipment. I think that's a cost that we had come up with together, chief. And then what that ongoing cost would be from a salary perspective. And then if this is something where we have a successful year, when they want to keep that partnership going, then adding an additional officer maybe in mid-year of 25 or fiscal year 26, because then you're essentially having one officer mostly paid for by the school district, and then you'd be able to bring in another officer to start growing that department again. And then again, that code enforcement, I just based on initial talks, I'm thinking that the budget's going to be around 10,000, which is quite a savings from what a full-time employee would be. So I'll stop there. Does anyone have any questions before we dig into numbers? Alrighty, the fun stuff. So I've looked at a few things. One thing I'm going to bring up first on the general fund. So we have the general fund, the utilities fund, the CIP, the new hotel tax fund, and then the debt fund. The general fund is the one that pays for pretty much everything that you see here at City Hall, the police department, parks and whatnot. And what I've got here is what our 5-year debt looks like. And this is including the new tax notes that we've got this year, and then the Texas Water Development Board for design that we will be bringing here. We'll be closing on in, I think it's June 7th, June 4th. So what you'll see here is the blue is the general fund. That's how much we are paying each year for those debt payments. And then in the orange is the utility fund, and that's what the utility fund is paying for the debt payments. So whenever we talk about the tax rate, when we talk about the O&M side and the INS side, the INS number comes from that blue part. So in FY25, our property tax has to pay for $885,000, $895,915. And then the rest essentially gets subtracted out, and that creates the O&M tax rate, and what that amount would be. And I'll show you here based on what I'm seeing from preliminary numbers. Again, we're not going to get official numbers until July 25th, but the property, both WCAD and BellCAD have already started to get us some assessed values and appraised values. And so what we're looking at in taxable value right now, right, this isn't a for sure number because there might be exemptions along the road that reduce that, but we're looking at around $117,837,461. That's a $5 million increase from what we saw in fiscal year 2024. I went ahead and just ran through a rate scenario to see where we might land at. And right now, if I did everything right the way it needed to go, again, they do the calculation sheet. But what we're seeing from a no new revenue rate, it's 72 cents. We adopted a 75 cent last year. From a voter approval rate, it's a 78 cent. And then from a de minimis, it's $1.18. Now, I think the reason that you're seeing those numbers a little skewed and a little higher than they normally are is because we adopted a 75 cent last year, and then 2 years ago, we adopted a 72 and a half, I want to say. And so that kind of skewed things upward. But what I'm at least including in this budget right now is a 65 cent tax rate. And so that's option 3 that you'll see there. We talked about what the tax levy would be, what the INS portion is going to be. What you would be left for just general fund would be $580,000. And so that'd be money that goes to the general fund to help pay for police, the salaries, everything else that helps bring in revenue for the general fund. And so that was one of the assumptions that we took in making this. And then from a high level, what's included in the detail, you're looking at the revenue being 1.5 and the expense being 1.3. Again, this isn't adding any of the employees. This is simply just what I'm seeing from a true, what we're paying out, making sure that it's in the budget. This one's not as many shifts as I'd say the utility funds have been. That one is where you'll probably see the biggest gaps and where things have changed, an increase. And so there'd be a fund balance of $177,452. How do y'all want to go through this? Do y'all want me to go by the sheet, section by section? What would help y'all?
Section by section.
All right, so then we'll go on the worksheet. If you'll go to page 3, this one's got the revenues rolled up and the expenses rolled up. You'll see that almost all of the revenues are coming in from administration. Again, when looking at page 4, you'll see what those revenues are. So you've got the sales tax, an increase that we've seen in building permits thanks to code enforcement, and then also just thanks to, really the code enforcement piece has been key. That's been bringing a lot of people. We've red tagged quite a few folks, letting them know that there is a permit process, and that's brought them here. And then franchise fees, we haven't seen a difference. We talked about that $185,915 of the INS property tax, and then the M&O with that $580,000. The other big piece of money you'll see there is the sales tax at $154,000, and then the other big one is the transfer between funds. So the transfer between funds of $421,000 is what the utilities has to pay back to general for the support the general fund does for utilities. And so Nugent and I worked through a cost allocation model that kind of spat out that number for us based on salaries, based on time, based on everything else. So it's not just a number in the sky, it's a number that we've got some data behind that says, this is what the utilities owes the general fund. And then the court fines, we're seeing a decrease. That's to be expected, but just wanted to be safe there, so we dropped it down to 90. Any questions on the revenues in the general fund? And then as we move to the expense side, you'll see again, page 3 has the rolled up expenses. What you'll see in a lot of these is I've taken out some from just specific accounts and moved them to a non-departmental because it's shared across everybody, but we can kind of go through where those big changes are. So things like contracted services, I've moved to non-departmental. Employee appreciation moved to non-departmental. And that the reason we did that is just it's a lot easier from when we actually do it in FundView to keep track of everything, because when you break it down by department, it makes it a little harder. No change in the salaries for administration, so that's really just my salary that you see there.
Where do we say what the non-departmental?
So you see anything in black, goes to the department is, right? So administration, fire, Non-departmental is on page 6. Oh, it's on this one, sorry. It's on the detailed, the budget and development.
Okay.
So if you'll go to page 6, you'll see the non-departmental there. So legal expenses, employee appreciation.
I need to ask a question that you kind of applies to this. Always used to in our packet, they were in a report every month. And it broke it down by department, and we could see where we stood on that.
Mhm.
And I've been asking for that for a long time, not from you. And then,
So budget to actuals.
yeah, it just gave us, I mean, it was a number, it didn't say municipal court. You just had to know the
Yeah.
department number. But it broke it down to where we could see exactly where we were standing in, on, just like you got it here.
Yeah.
Exactly where we were in the budget.
I had to break my calculator out.
Yeah, fund use got the capability, where I've been, so I can run the report, it's just not accurate. And the reason I say that is, we essentially have to restart the numbers in fund view, because what it's been doing is the way it was set up, like 800,000 in cash that we've got, I don't have 800,000 in cash. And so what I'm trying to work through with FundView is take what the auditors gave us and say, hey, here's where they think we ended last year with. And then get this budget in there. And then hopefully we can get here's the new line in the
Because
sand.
when it stopped is when we had, somebody was the secretary, and as she wrote a check, she wasn't entering that department
Mm,
in there. And so it's not gonna run anything if you're not coding that check.
Yeah. And so what you'll see it as, it'll be, all of these words have a GL code.
Mhm.
And so you'll be able to see, okay, in administration for elections, right, we've spent so and so much. Now, this is just the budget, not necessarily budget actual.
Right.
But I mean, I can run the report, I'll just give you a caveat of, if you see a number that doesn't make sense, there's probably a reason.
Okay.
So I'll give y'all some time to look at it, and if y'all got any questions, just let me know.
Okay, Chief. I don't see any here, anything here from you said at expenses. Are we doing that or not doing it? No.
I mean, city, that's all donations.
Okay. You're doing it, it's just not coming from us.
Yeah, it's donations, whatever we have.
Okay, I got you.
You'll also see a lot got backed out of public works because it needs to live in the utilities fund. So what is here in the public works on page 7 is mostly what's related to parks.
Streets.
What happened to the equipment purchases?
So I'll double check, but a lot of the equipment purchases of these seem to be paid off. double
Equipment
check.
purchases should be supplies other than office. That's normally what we buy ammo, we buy different things
Yeah.
like that.
I'll put that. Do you know what you had in the last budget?
Usually, it's not really changed, it's about 5. Whatever the budget was. I mean, what I do, you're gonna see a lot, kind of like what we talked about, where the spending is at. One, I'm short staffed, so, I mean, we haven't even bought uniforms for this budget. Last budget, we did buy uniforms. We tried not to spend money if we know the position where the city is at. So if you go, oh, he must we need it. It's just, we have been very careful not to spend the money unless.
So we don't want to take anything out.
That's
Because
my
you're,
problem.
you're.
I mean, I'm to a point, a lot of
It's-
things
it's
are
their
not
team.
working.
You got 5,000, operating supplies, not office, it's on page 7, and I can give you this whenever I'm done with it.
Yeah, you have,
Yeah,
it's
just
5,000, you have equipment, and then you have supplies, you know.
Yeah, I got operating supplies, not office, and I'll look for equipment. And I've got equipment purchases, the 5,000 got backed out, but we can add it back in.
Okay. Yeah, it's two different items, line, and in the last 10 years, or 4 years for this mayor. Supplies, they always ask that
But
question, what is
would
that?
it really be bullets and stuff?
Just come over here and get some other bands out of the room.
Well, it's classified, I'm just saying, that's just an example of what I might need when I go to the inventory, like, hey, we're going to the range, I need camo. I might say, hey, I need more cases, I need more,
Right.
you know, it's just kind of like the broad, but like when we turn in the receipt, everything's on the receipt to show what we spent.
So let me ask you this, you heard anything from fire? Are you just going off of what the?
I just went off on, yeah, I'll ask them. 'Cause I know that they're starting to look at it.
Get your rubber band guy.
I'm tired. Getting woke up too much at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm freaking up. I'm looking at you. No, sir.
Sorry, chief, I just had to.
Might not see you, they've been calling wherever. I'm really not.
Salaries and wages, 251,000 for 2 guys, man. You guys making bank.
3. And
Then we had
updated
none for
wages.
public works.
You know how it is,
What's
chief.
that?
We had none for
Well, I
public
gotta pay, but I
I
can't
can do
pay.
this job by myself. He over there looking at it like, I think I could do this job by myself.
We could form a citizens militia. That's right.
We already got one.
James Brent, that's what I thought.
Oh, darn it, that's right.
One touch the other.
All right, thank you, you're doing a good job.
Bell County dispatch right here. Bartlett dispatch.
I'm gonna tell you.
We just created a dispatch.
Please hold.
Any other questions
There's plenty of
on the
calls.
general? Is there anything that's not in here that you want to see?
What about the fire one that got taken out?
Fire's there,
On page 5.
the equipment purchases?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna add it back in,
Are you right?
because I know that randomly they'll ask for like a generator or, different things.
I know it.
Yeah, they get a lot of donations, so it's seldom that whenever they do have big equipment purchases,
Their radios and stuff
Yeah,
like
stuff
that.
like
Let's
that.
add a radio. Go ahead.
I know in all the departments, not just my department, Public Works, you look at our vehicles, they're old, high mileage. It's getting to a point where you might want to start looking at, I mean, as you do the budget, what would you like to do on all the department vehicles? And also all the departments, in my opinion, needs to do an inventory of what we all have.
we've got one for public works on vehicles. I know that you has it on the
Ain't doing
Where it says vehicle, PD needs a new, like an actual new
New
vehicle.
squad, yeah, so again, this is base, so I haven't added any of your wants,
Ah,
and so if there's gonna be
This is
one,
half
Play with
to-
numbers.
let's
yeah.
just get this by, my bad.
But the beauty of vehicles is you finance it.
Yeah.
Right, so it's not a cash up front. But I would agree that definitely need one for PD, if not 2. And then from the public works standpoint, I mean, a lot of them are pretty up there in mileage, but they seem to be kind of working. They've been doing better about maintaining them, so we're hoping to extend the life there.
Can we get a list of what we have and see, you
Yeah.
know?
I've got the ones for ours. Chief, can you get me one for yours and your mileage year and
Let's go
whatnot?
from there and look at
Can
that.
you explain to everybody, because it was something I didn't understand. When I said, why don't you turn that dang car off, the gasoline is high. Oh, no, and you gave me a reason why you don't.
Well, one is,
And we're
one,
trained not to do that.
one is getting go. And then you start to download all, like in mine, I have computers.
Get your
Like, Mark
test.
have computer and all that other stuff. Mine have computer.
So when
have
you
a lot
start
of
it
that.
up,
It turns
You
it
went
off.
and it's gotta reboot that thing.
What's the one that might not turn back on?
Do what?
The one he likes, is it like, which one is it? The Crown Vic?
Oh, it's like three out of them.
Wow.
Could be any of the
No,
three.
well, I was saying, the reason I brought that up, because, as we start to look at budget, you start to look at, this is the base, but we got to start to look at what can we afford. Now, I can be honest and say that a police car has been in the budget 3-4 times. We
Yeah.
still have not bought one.
Yeah.
I mean, the last couple of years, it's been in the budget.
So I've seen a couple of grants out there when we're looking for grants for buses and stuff. What are they? That diesel? Could we get diesel and change it to? I mean, just different things.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of grants out there. Maybe I can look and see if I can find some.
On the local side,
Yeah, when we start looking at municipalities.
it's not as much for vehicles.
Yeah.
For cops, there's the cops grant, but it comes out ever so often and it's for police officers.
Yeah.
And then you have I think that one's
I
different.
think it was TCQ grants
Yeah.
that I was looking at.
We'll have to, but for them, financing a PD vehicle isn't as hard.
Right.
Because you do installments and it doesn't have as much of an impact on the budget
Is the
as,
Tahoe paid for yet?
yes.
Is it? The Tahoe?
Yeah, so we.
So the only thing we have a
Hey,
payment on is the cat backhoe?
Yeah, that's the only one I've got so far.
Is the building paid for
Is
it?
the building?
I think the building has a few more payments. I think at the end of maybe October, November this year, it's paid off.
You don't just sell
About
that?
that, Rick?
You don't sell that and move to City Hall?
Hi, Kevin, you're on
He's
the
already,
highway.
he's already touched his.
Back well, we just talked about vehicles,
Trying to wake
like
them
a
up.
lot of things that I think the mayor knows too. A lot of things like chainsaws, we need to inventory what's in all these departments, because a lot of things come up this, we ask for a ladder, we ask for this, it's like, where's it at? And they can never find anything, so there need to be a true, in fact, inventory of all the departments to say, this is what we got. And a matter of fact, if they want to make it, Steve, this is where it's at.
That's a hard thing to do. Yeah, if you're gonna if you're gonna account for something, then you need to make it someone in charge of it,
And that's,
accountability of it. Because everything we have at school look in Barge Drive.
Yeah.
So,
and here, this is why the council decided to go to a superintendent. And so you have a department head and somebody responsible for all these departments.
We check them out and
Police
do
say,
that.
Well, it's
Hey,
like
make-
the other day when you were telling
Yeah.
everybody to be prepared.
We got 5 chainsaws.
How many in the morning?
Thank you.
I mean, it's just,
I mean, you know,
we need to
it's,
know what we can give, with it
Yeah.
budget truly to say, hey, this is what we need.
right. You
Jacob's
can do
gonna
it
have these
without
guys
it.
like, all right, you want to use a weed eater? You gotta leave a boot. So if you see Jimmy out there, you see Jimmy out there mowing the grass, it's one shoe on. It's because he had to leave the boot.
I mean,
Take out the weed eater, you know.
it sounds like that's drastic, but I will say that, like, I know that we bought some fancy automatic pumpers that pump water out. And when I asked, all right, how many do we have? Stephen at the time said we have one at the time. I think he got now 2. I said, great, who's got them? He goes, only me. And I said, why? And he goes, because these are too nice for us to break. And I mean, that's unfortunately the sad thing is we have not had the history of taking care of our equipment the way we should have. And that's going to be something that only the superintendent will be able to continually reinforce with them. And I have no doubts in my mind that Jacob will be able to do that.
That's our superintendent.
He starts tomorrow. He's been in the position before. I know that whenever the mayor and I talked about even, flushing, what's your expectation? Well, that needs to happen every month. Has it happened prior to whenever we didn't have Steven? No. I know that the first time when Steven started, people were calling in about a leak, and we were just like, oh, no, that's just flushing. That's supposed to happen. Same thing for the valves themselves, getting exercise. Right now, we've got folks that are refusing to even go and exercise ones that are brand new because there's just this fear that it's going to lock up, and we can't have that fear. We need to exercise those.
Since they're super expensive to put in, so what's the point in putting them in if we're not going to exercise them and use them?
We can't continue to count on shutting off the water to the whole system. That's not a best
That's-
practice.
Isolation valves are there for a reason. That's to isolate
The system.
Certain
a
areas.
certain area of the system so you can work on it
Exactly.
behind the water, and still maintain pressure to the system citywide. And they've got to
Minimal
get-
impact to hopeful customers.
rather than doing a citywide boil notice, it may just be a 2 square block
Right.
boil notice or something like that. I mean, it's so much easier that way. And then, the water shut down, it impacts the school.
Yes.
And then you're impacting parents. So when the school closes, sends the kids home. Hey, I've got a full-time job. Now you send my kids home. Now I got to find somebody to take care of my kids. Or the kids are going home and they're getting in trouble, going out on the streets, getting in trouble. I mean, it's just not a good way to operate. It's not good.
So then we push it to later, and we have overtime, and
And then we
then
have complaints on that, why wait until late? Well, we don't want to close the school down.
And then it's like, tell me when is a good time to shut the water off. I mean, just somebody come up with. Y'all tell me.
Yeah.
Let's put that on the next ballot. When is a good time to check
When
this
is
box?
it?
Let's do a Facebook survey,
a poll.
a poll.
We
When
can
is a
solve
good
it,
time
everybody
to
can start paying their bills. We can
shut
raise
down
the
water?
rate, and you're doing it what we're supposed to do.
It's just so, it frustrates the hell out of me because it's like you try not to impact the school where you're going to have to send all 300-400 kids home, and then the parents are going to have to come home and take care of the kids, and so now the whole damn city's affected, and it's like try to do it after hours to where and give you a 3 or 4 day notice.
I think we gave a really good notice.
Yes, really
this
did.
time. A really good notice that,
So you still have that.
and we still have.
Yeah.
people complain.
Well, she just needs to move out of town. I'm sorry.
So
I've known her for 100 years.
as far as needs right now, I'm hearing financing 2 PD vehicles.
Yes.
I'm
Three
assuming
signs.
Tahoes, is that preference? Trailblazers, whatever they're called. Tahoes.
Like
Cybertruck.
I knew you was gonna go there.
What's that?
Cybertruck, bicycle.
There's a new one. It looks like I don't even know what to call it. Like a diamond just driving down the road.
No.
Yeah.
Who makes that one?
I
Is
have
that
no
that
idea.
Tesla one that they've shown on Facebook?
It's like a black one that's just, it looks like a spaceship. It's
Yeah,
supposed to
that's a
take
Tesla
off,
one.
Yeah,
but it
I know.
doesn't.
Is one of the priorities this year street signs?
It needs to.
I wish we could, that would be.
It's only one lady who complains about the street sign.
Everyone else is playing the system.
Yeah, but we
She
kinda
lived here her
get it,
entire life. She
you
should know where
our
she's
street
going by
signs are
now.
kinda- I mean, I don't know how much would it be to, just rough estimate.
Honestly,
Probably-
it's
Probably less than $7,500 through the whole city.
more than likely less than that.
They're about roughly $40 to $50 per sign.
I would rather not have the blue background.
No,
It faded so fast.
well, I think they
So
just
more of
bought,
a green background.
they bought a
just-
lower quality. I think there's different qualities that you can buy of the reflectors, the background. And so I'm gonna guess they went for low quality. That, I think with as much sun as we get here, I think we're going to go with the higher quality. It's going to be a little bit more expensive sign
So signs probably 10,000.
and stop signs.
I mean, that's up to the council. I'm just wondering.
Speed
man.
bumps, stop
We've been
signs.
talking about it a couple
There's on
years.
stop signs too, that we need some stop signs. But,
Yeah,
I've seen somewhere that there are no stop signs.
Yeah.
And we need to have.
but also,
I think
there are probably some signs over at the barn.
and that,
Stop signs.
yeah.
There are stop signs. I did look at,
I think we need to look at adding some stop signs to some intersections.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, you got some intersections where you have what I told you the other day, the one over by, 10.
you got,
Where you stop on this side, you don't stop on this side, you don't stop there.
yeah, it's a four-way, but you only have one stop sign.
Okay. that's-
So why don't you have a sign on the other side? I'm like,
there's one by the Red School
I'm gonna guess those were stolen.
that has no stop signs and it intersects.
Yeah, there's quite a few of those. And Elm Street's like Daytona 500. Elm
Even
Street,
with the stop sign.
Elm Street needs stop signs, maybe some
Well,
speed
that
bumps,
stuff.
potholes or something.
Y'all added, y'all added Jackson Street. About 4, 5.
Problem is those get fixed and then it rains,
Uh-huh.
they need to get fixed again.
Yeah, I remember.
Potholes are killing our buses.
So do we have, do we still have some of that new mix that we ordered?
Oh, yeah, there's a little bit over there, but the guy, he called me last week asking if we wanted another load. I didn't know where we set on budget.
Honestly, I'd have to look, because I know that he's been doing like every,
'Cause I think we budgeted a load a quarter, didn't we?
oh,
Pothole mix.
Yeah, oh, it's
Wait,
raining,
could
it's
you
worse.
say- Explain the new pothole mix.
It's like a asphalt that's got some hardener in it that's, you're supposed to just be able to dump it in the hole, roll over it a few times and roll on.
And go.
Yeah, but I
It
don't know.
don't work.
Yeah,
We tried it in Gerald.
I'm not I mean, I think if it's,
so we budgeted 26,000, so I'll have to look to see where we're at.
I think it's,
We didn't give it time enough to dry, and it was running over about stuff that should have been running over.
I think if it's put in correctly,
It-
it hardens up pretty good.
I watched them do a pothole that still had water in it. And I said, now you know very well that that's not gonna work.
But back when I first came in, homeboy was using dirt, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
With rock, big rocks. Here's another idea during the summertime. Kind of, I went that route, you kind of remember this. So they could have help, keeping the grass and stuff and having part-time during the summer, Tim, for
Oh, yeah.
mowing and stuff like that. I don't know what the council thinks about that. It worked out pretty good, a couple of them didn't come, but it was here and there.
We
But,
have had a few people come by with cards asking if we needed a service, but
It was like somebody like, they weren't full-time, so they didn't get full-time benefits,
they're
but
just part-time.
they were just part-time, so
part-time, but
a couple days a week they'd come.
What about seniors too, that
Motorized.
need for their, what do you call it, that they need so much service time?
Oh, AARP, or what?
No, seniors, like high school seniors.
Oh, okay.
That they need so much service time, you know, that they volunteer and do
I
things because-
described that internship, and put it all out there.
They want
I was
money.
interviewed, nobody came.
They already
Nobody
graduated.
like anything.
Yeah.
I thought outside the box.
If they have to go outside, they're not gonna do it.
I mean, we did have a couple when I was
Boy,
in,
thank
we had like
God.
2 or 3, seniors.
Somebody,
Summer.
it's like 2 or 3 weeks ago,
I mean, we're paying-
about
we're
cut the grass
paying-
for the city.
We're paying
That's
the
just
kids
part-time.
to move tables and chairs $20 an hour.
So,
I tell them, man, I want to put my job in and then do that.
I mean, The hope is with the new management, we'll start to see the people that need to be on active jobs are gonna be at active jobs.
More
And
efficiently ran.
the people who don't need to be at an active job are doing the other stuff that needs to be done.
You mean we don't need somebody holding a flash drive at 12 noon?
Unfortunately not unless you're getting the eclipse again.
yeah, I can't do that no more. I woke up a little bit.
So there's gonna be more two-man crews working 2-inch leaks, 4-inch leaks than a 4-man crew.
It's too standard.
I know we've had a lot of rain and I get it. But there should be somebody on a mower shredder, leader at every Monday through Friday. We've got that much,
The thing is, we're sending out letters, and we're going,
absolutely.
so you have to take care of that too, right?
And then the goal too is I don't really think a water sewer operator busy all day every week. So there's also possibly some availability from that position to do some of the groundskeeping as well. Because I mean, they get samples, they go and check the system. Not much is going to change between 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Right? And while now we have SCADA working, so you'll get alerts. So in that time, when you're not doing what you need to do from a TCEQ standpoint, there's a lot else that can be done. And so that's going
And
to
that's the superintendent's.
it's our water operator and our sewer operator. It's one position we currently have.
Is it the superintendent treasurer, they do that?
Yes.
Okay.
So in the interview, we told the superintendent that we hired, is what we'd like to see is his office is upstairs.
Need water?
All right. What do you need? Water? Anybody else?
Mayor Pro Tem, good job, man.
Shot of whiskey, take it.
Right. Yeah, it's just like I went out the other day with I was trying to do the weapons qualification for me and Swanton before he was out on medical leave, and it's overgrown out there. I mean, it's not one guys out there, you know, a lot more cut out. That's
Where do you do your
telling me
qualifications at?
can't tell that at this point in time.
I'll take one.
It's that, it's just right at the,
So, we're on plan. We're on time. Like, we'd like to see his office upstairs every morning.
I do not.
There'd be a teams meeting, a crew meeting.
The guys are checking in with him. And he's already got their work orders that he'd like to see them work on that day, printed out, and he's verified that all the materials on site, whatever. Shane, our water operator, will have to check in with him and check out with him daily, because if he doesn't, he kind of, nobody's watching. And so, he's gonna check in and out daily to kind of keep him, accountable. And then that way he can also, if he gets done early with his duties, they can give him something else to do, like organize material order, whatever. You know, making sure the material's ready. So, I think it's gonna be good. And like you said, this time of year you gotta have somebody on the lawnmower 100% of the time. There's only 1 week he doesn't do lawn mowing, and that's the week he's meter reading. You know, and I'm fine with, we got long days now, meter reading days. If they want to work 10-hour days
Okay.
to read meters, get them done that much faster. Get back in the field cutting grass.
So have we had any luck at
Just Bell Street. The next street, Bell. On the streets and hopping.
No,
Well, those books are so screwed up. It's the way the books are. It's the way that's from way before Chief even came in. You know, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how they got screwed up, because Rosemary was like, golly, that's not how. it
honestly,
goes."
I honestly don't know, because it's somehow, some way, books got created and addresses just got randomly put in different books.
and so as
Yeah,
we're
right.
doing the implementation of the AMI meters, you know, if you redid the books right now, it's going to totally screw that up. And then you're having to go back to the through FundView and all that.
Okay.
It's like a total fiasco. And so once all the AMI meters are in, it's going to be a lot.
And what's the projection on that?
So we've got a 2-year implementation on the electric. The water was one that the direction council gave us. It's gonna take a little bit more on that one, just given that as soon as they start to replace some of those meters, we're gonna have breaks. So we're gonna need a bigger budget. And that's one that when we look at the utility, we can possibly look at doing that, maybe moving some numbers around, to include them.
The electric's pretty simple. Unplug the meter, stab the meter in, write all the information down,
Right.
and you move on to the next one. Shouldn't take 15, 20 minutes per residence. The water meter, they actually have to maybe even swap out the water meter box. Obviously, you change out the water meter. They got to set they got to drill a hole in the box, in the lid of the box for the antenna. That means a lot involved. Probably an hour per meter. And so it may be something that we do have to hire out.
Yeah.
Get a contractor to come and do X amount of time at a time.
Do we know how many customers inside or residents inside the city or like that have residents?
There's only a few.
Encore Electric.
It's like 6 or 8
it's like,
people.
yeah, probably it's less than 10.
When we go out and ride around and see the house.
I know of
That house right there on the corner is.
yeah, I know of 4 that I know of that are on Encore, and I'm sure there's got to be more. That's this one, that house, Tammy Hunt, and who's the gentleman at the corner? You know where Dawson tore down the house right across the street, the big yellow house.
Oh,
That house. Those are the 4 I know that are on Encore, but I feel like there's got to be more.
And there's no way for us to do this.
Well, I guess
I don't know how much enforcement you have to force citizens to borrow it without CU battle, which we could take a new piece.
yeah, if you really wanted to,
But
I mean, I'm sure Encore wouldn't mind giving those customers back, but
we asked for them back whenever Robert was doing his thing. It was like 25 lots that were going to be in our territory, but Encore's going to have the rest of the property, so they wanted all those 25 lots too. So Joseph and I sent them a letter and said, we'll give you those 25 lots if you give us all the city of our, the customers inside the city back. And they're like, no. So we sent back, okay, well then no. We're going to take our 25 customers. Yeah, that's makes sense there. Why they would say no. But anybody you talk to, like we had a meeting with Encore the other day when they come through here, they're like, shoot, we can give you those customers in a heartbeat.
yeah.
It's kind of
It
an
just really
inconvenience
depends
for
on
them
who
to
you
have 4 customers in, one little area.
It's just the text out.
on revenue, have we been receiving the franchise fees from like, all the internet people and stuff like that?
We've gotten some from like, one I haven't seen is AT&T, and that's one I need to get with them on, because when I talked to Little River, they also have never seen an AT&T franchise fee. But a lot of them are gonna do pole attachments. They're just waiting on, I think I got a final count, and then it gets billed in October, September is when it's supposed to we bill it out, and then per the agreement. So that's kind of one, but yeah, I mean, I know that I've gotten like, maybe not internet, but I know I've seen like Atmos and others.
I know one of the ones that's been, I don't know, he won the whole time I was here for 6 months.
It was
About, and he knows it's out of area. And then the reason I asked that because that's a lot of revenue. Because we have somebody that comes in and brings us a couple, less than $1 check for franchise running through our line. And people,
Encore.
That's Encore.
it's like, okay,
They just brought it recently.
it's like a slap in the face. Here, we'll bring it to you. I mean, that's a lot of revenue. I mean, it's not a lot, but not really. But it's not kind of bringing that up. A lot of these people are not paying.
I know I've asked Falcon for a pole attachment count, and they still have not gotten that to me, so that reminds me to get back to them.
He's probably not on any poles because he's line to line.
Okay.
Yeah, he's inside our.
Okay,
He's wireless. from the
Wireless.
tower,
so it's really just AT&T, and then
Heritage,
Heritage.
Locknet.
Maybe it was probably, I think it was Locknet that I meant to get. They never got anything back to me.
Like SOS, they had a contract because they're inside the gate and they have equipment inside the gate down there on Texas.
Yeah, Jeff's supposed to pay it's like $2,000 a year or something like that, isn't it? 1,200. I
I
don't
set it
know.
up to monthly, and I mean, just even before I was in it, still come in and take care of it.
So then we can essentially take his stuff.
Because his equipment's on our tower down there using our electricity.
But you can take it off if they're not paying.
Then you got all that on Facebook. That's why I wasn't.
It's not going to pay.
You send a nicely worded letter about
Like,
this
what was this
continuation.
amount by all this?
Malcolm didn't pay his bill.
So what I'm hearing on the additions were the numbers that we saw we were gonna add on like equipment purchases and whatnot, and then
I could see in Public Works like a mini excavator.
Yeah.
Really paying off.
So the 2 PD vehicles and possibly a Mini X and then signs. Probably 12.5 on that.
On the,
How
On,
much were we paying on the police car this year? So we have a savings of now the police car paid off. And then how much we have savings?
I know.
it's not much.
the payment was like 600 a month.
It's 600 a month.
600 a month. So it's like 600 a month, so 7,200.
I was looking at, I'm trying to figure out what the savings was. But we think that means the next budget, police car paid off.
Police car should be paid off. The top of it, they already paid off.
It's paid off.
So that's paid off. Then
And then the building gets paid off by the end of this year.
forget the parking. That's easy.
So we have the 2 PD vehicle.
That's easy. Some real bullets.
But, yeah, sorry.
And then for my proposed budget addition, I'll reach out to the superintendent or chief and see if there's still an interest in police officer SRO. Although the one concern there is we just haven't had applicants.
The last thing that we talked about it, they ain't got the money, they was gonna look for a grant. Talked to me that they did apply.
He talked to me yesterday.
Working.
He talked to me yesterday and said he did apply for a grant. It's like a 2-year grant. He gave me a number, but he gave me a lot of numbers yesterday.
He's got so many grants going on right now.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a wait game with that. They get
Okay.
money on the grant.
Yeah, he sounds pretty promising on the grant,
Yeah.
for SRO.
Would that be an in-house department that they build like a lot of these school districts are?
He wants
Yeah.
Ours to do it?
he wants
Okay.
one of our offices.
Yeah, because it's a lot of costs when you start building an apartment. I know some school districts are doing that. Gerald just did that. Yeah, they have their own.
Some of these places are getting, their school PDs are getting bigger than the city PDs.
That's what the Gerald ISD one looks like. They probably have more
Yeah,
offices.
but she wants to build one.
Hey, I'll have to deputize Jesse over here.
He's ready. All right, y'all ready to move to the utility fund? Take a break.
I got a question. Underneath the electric and underneath departmental, underneath sewer, there's a $45,000 operating supplies, not office. What is the not office? What are those?
So operating supplies, not
That's a lot
office.
of money for 3 departments. That's.
Are you on, what page are you on?
12, there's a $25,000 one.
Okay, so operating supplies, not office for like public works is
Chemical and stuff.
chemicals,
Chlorine.
yeah, they've got a
water.
bunch. It could be fuses, it could be just about anything that they need from like a day-to-day. That's not like an equipment, so it's not necessarily like a new
So I know like the
lawnmower.
sewer plants and all that stuff, they have to have all those chemicals and everything.
Yeah,
but
and then there's also just-
$25,000.
It adds up, I can tell you that. There's chlorine, right, and then you've also got, you've got like the propane tanks, and then,
I can kind of explain that because I know you're new on the council and the supplies other than office. So sometimes we need something, I would call it a reserve. It's like, hey, this body camera went out. You know what? I need to get this body camera.
Yeah, and that I
get it
get.
in. You know, it's supplies,
Well, I
not
need more
all the
phones.
supplies, but something they are, it's just kind of like a blanket. But, you
But it was
know,
like the same amount in each category, is why I was curious.
it's hard to say, hey, I need cones
What,
this
there
year.
be
or I
one needed
need
more
this.
than the other?
well, a big part, and that's why we'll get into the utility fund, a big part of that was, some of them, they may have had it in the previous budget, and then some of them they didn't, and so now it's okay, how do we start dividing this to where we're actually seeing the expenses?
Gotcha.
So on the utility fund, and don't let this shock you, because again, this is just based on base, what we're actually seeing in expenses, unfortunately, our utilities is where we spend the most money. But there is a shortfall right now of almost 300,000. But the caveat is the revenues here do not necessarily reflect the revenues that are projected because we don't necessarily know where the rate study is going to fall. And so once we know where the rate study really falls at with what they're expecting rate changes to be, what the council adopts, then you'll be able to kind of plug that number in, and then if there's still a shortfall, then that's where you start to carve back where we're spending some money on the expenses. So for the revenues, there are slight increases, but it's probably not what we're going to see from the rate study increase. And that's just based on, we've had some hotter years. And with that, there's been definitely a higher amount in revenue, especially on the electric and water side. And then we've had new customers come in. Probably 10 to 20 is what I can count off from the top of my head from this just last couple of months. And then we've also got the full year impact of what we're doing with CTs, right? Where those revenues should have been. And so that's kind of some of the increase that you're seeing.
So the new billing,
Exactly.
and we are going to see them.
Yeah. From an AMI, yeah, for the CTs, yes. Yeah. I mean, you saw it just in what we showed you for the 3 months.
It's probably anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000 a month.
And we don't even know the full impact of the big industrial, what that looks like when it's peak. And I know I've got a 5S order to go place on one of those meters that's been down. And then I think there's another one that needs to be like completely redone to have that meter operational. But that one we don't have to worry about as much because that building has gone down. So we're waiting on them to. So you'll see here revenue across the board, electric being the one that brings in the most, with water being the second. Your sewer is a flat rate. So that one kind of staying a little consistent, but seeing some changes with just the amount of accounts. And then the garbage being a big one too. So from an expense standpoint, so you'll see the year-over-year variance, and that's where you're seeing those expense increases. And when you look at the actual breakdown, starting on page 1112, the reason on a lot of these that you're seeing kind of a big increase in expenses is because for the longest time, we weren't really projecting what contract or emergency contract was going to be. You know, we talked about that manhole collapse. That was $65,000. We've got a few manholes right now that are probably needing new replacements here soon. We weren't really taking into account how much we were really paying on materials. So water lines, sewer lines, on those Hymaxes, on isolation valves, you know, trying to get that in the budget so that we can get that inventory in. And so as we're doing these replacements, we're not just clamping. Hey, we've got a budget to do some line replacements. Let's go ahead. We know that we've done 20 clamps on this section. Let's go ahead and replace it. And so that's kind of where you're going to see some of the biggest changes. And then also on operating supplies, not office. I mean, I know that we've got a lot of equipment out there that one is aging or doesn't work, and that can be because of the use or not being taken care of, but we need to make some replacement of this inventory and then also working on the superintendent, making sure that that equipment's being taken care of so that we have a longer life. And so there's going to be more chainsaws that we need to get ordered and just a bunch of other stuff. Those pumps that are really good when they're meter reading, they don't have to now take 10 minutes to pump it out. They do that thing and it's out in less than 2 minutes max. And then they're more efficient and they can do more reads because a lot of the times when they're reading, it happens to be when it's gathering.
Where guys can watch out for them, like just talking about chainsaws. I've seen them just get through with them, and throw them down the sunrise.
Yeah, so that's where you're gonna see a lot of the big changes. We've seen an increase in purchase power. I added 45,000 there for buffer being the ancillary charge that comes up a few times a year. We got hit with it back in August. It's a pass-through that the PUC and ERCOT put on for essentially having to have excess energy on standby in the case that we use it, and then everybody gets paid. Everyone gets charged and then money for it. You'll see that electric meters, I've added 65,000, that's for year 2. Increasing engineering services, just knowing that we're gonna start using Schneider more as we have, hopefully more projects that can get built within the city. Trying to think through.
I think engineering services don't too much,
The 10,000 in electric?
20,000 or whatever.
Oh, so that is because it used to live in general, but it really needs to live in water and sewer, and that's because the engineering services that some of that is, you can develop for the reimburse it, but a lot of that is like, we've got our water projects, or we have grants that reimburse them. So while it does look like it's going up, you also have revenues backing it, because a lot of most of the projects we've got right now, the engineer's cost is getting reimbursed back to the city.
Sure.
They're also just expensive.
Yes.
Salaries and wages, you'll see that there's an increase there, and that's the increase due to what we talked about, increasing their salaries to match market. I'm gonna confirm, but T-cost was at 180,000, and I don't think I've seen that level of expense yet. But I'm gonna go back and confirm because I dropped it to 60,000. You'll see the transfer from utilities to INS on page 13. That's the debt portion that the utilities funds have to pay for, long-term debt that we've had added on. Increased in in vehicle maintenance, as we're continuing to see that be a priority. The contract services, emergency and regularly scheduled went up. That's every now and then when we need to call somebody in to do some of these. Also for regularly scheduled, we're gonna have projects out there that our guys may not be able to do. And so having that money in there so that they can go do, hey, we need you to run half a mile or, not even half a mile, 400 feet of a water extension in taps. Can you go and do that? And they'd say, yeah, here's what I'm gonna charge you, 15,000, whatever it may be. So allowing for some of those projects throughout the year. And that's in sewer and in water, wanting to make sure that it's covered on both. And the beauty is, if we don't spend as much as we're seeing on some of these, that's great, right? You're under budget. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. And then there is 45,000 that I added on the last line on page 15 for wells, lines, and meters. So some of that being the meter costs. Anything else on the utilities? Any wants, needs?
Too much?
It's been a while. It's bad. Wasn't there?
We will need to give employee raises this year.
Yeah, and that's included, so, well. She's been there.
See? I heard that it would.
That's a council decision. If that's something the council would like to see, I will put it in. I didn't give myself a raise for whoever takes my position.
Yeah, department head.
Yeah, I
That
asked
would
for,
talk
your job description, and no one sent it up.
Yes, I'll send it to you. I completely forgot.
No, I even asked again.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
They said it was in the personnel file, and I wrote the personnel file backwards and forwards since I was.
Yeah, it wouldn't be in
And
there.
I'm like, it's not in there.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Send the ordinances.
From the debt side, page 17 just shows the recap of that multi-year from the utility and general fund. I've also got this not only from the 24 to 29, but essentially the life of all of our debts. So you'll see that there's some where they drop off. Those are going to be good times to do another debt issuance so that, as you need new vehicles or anything else that can be financed, you can. But this one's pretty simple. This is essentially what we pay our creditors. And we have all those debt schedules that show what that is. And then when time comes, we go and make those wires and we pay everybody and then what we do at least from the way I do it and the way that Joseph did it was, I essentially take each number, right? So for 25, 263 and 185 for general, I divide it by, I think it's either 5 or 6 months. And then as we start getting property taxes from November, December to March, you just start, okay, that's how much I moved to this account, that's how much I moved to this account, that's how much I moved to this account. Because the last thing you want to do is March or April, May comes around and you have to pay those and you don't have that money set to the side. And then page 18 goes and shows that in detail. So those are the what we're paying for. There's the BBVA bond, 25 tax notes, the GovCap, the Texas Water Development Board, and then the 24 tax notes. Anything on debt? From a hotel tax, so this was a new fund that we created, as you all know. Back in 2020, an ordinance was passed to adopt a 7% local hotel occupancy tax. This year, we started collecting on that tax and enforcing that tax on folks. And so we've got essentially 2 to 3 Airbnbs that operate in town. There's been that maybe 1 or 2 of those are going to shut down, but I'm still getting the hotel tax from. They're due the 20th of each month. All of that's online on how they need to pay it, and the people that have to pay that know how. And then there are very restricted uses on how you spend those dollars. So what you'll see in this is essentially there's revenue, but there's no expense yet, because I think that's one where maybe the council wants to see it kind of grow before you maybe consider some expenses, but there are certain things that you can spend the dollars on. And so I won't go into too much detail, but this is essentially from the legislature on how you can spend it. So there's 2 criteria you have to meet. Every purchase has to directly enhance and promote tourism and the convention and hotel industry. So here it's tourism in your Airbnbs. And then criteria 2, it must fit into one of the 9 categories that you see there. Probably the easiest one to work on is maybe the signage directing tourists to sites and attractions here. So some wayfinding. Hey, at the turn of 95, it can be like a sign that goes downtown, City Hall, and then maybe one that points towards Becky Caldwell. Just different things, City Pool, different, just some decorative signage that can help. The other thing is you can also spend it on arts and murals. I believe that is, and also, historical restoration and preservation, and then promotes the arts. So if you wanted to do murals downtown, that'd be another one that you can say, you know, hey, we're trying to become the mural capital of East Woco, and West Bell.
We need to change something in our ordinances, don't you?
So it says funding the enhancement or upgrading of existing sports facilities.
So that one I don't think applies to us. I'll have to go back and check, but it's very particular cities, and from what I think, it's by the port.
So that doesn't include like your local baseball, softball,
No.
soccer fields.
It's
stuff
certain
like-
cities that are
or like
eligible. They got
stadiums. and
they
stuff.
got carved out.
And I'm sure we don't have a problem with murals. I like them,
I mean, I think it
but
does.
it is in our city ordinance that we can't have.
Really?
Can't have that, no.
Yeah. That's so. I've seen a lot of murals definitely bring people to places. I think you can. There's people who look for certain murals. There's and that people will drive and go and
The
stop.
picture made in front of the.
Yeah, and you'll see a line.
Yeah.
The other thing that you could do is, advertising and promotions. So if you wanted to put billboard signs across Texas to, hey, come to Bartlett, that's another way you could also do it. But right now, I'm anticipating if everything goes well, we've got about $500, $600 in that account. So I'm anticipating $1,200 by the end of the year. And then possibly seeing an increase of that to 5,000. But that's again if those Airbnbs operate. If they don't, then obviously that could reduce. But there's no expense here, so it's not really holding anybody to anything. It's just a fund that we're kind of continually growing. And then we talked about it briefly, but the CIP fund, this is what it would look like for 25 based on the projects we've got committed. The one if really being the projected water development board of the 16 million for the construction, which we'll find out on August 6th. But we've gotten
We need that terribly bad.
we are anticipating getting we've gotten one of the generator projects back from FEMA that we've already done a kickoff meeting on. We're in RFIs, so request for information on the second. Those generators are going to be amazing at those sites. Give us some backup where we really need it.
Now that's like this one out here, right?
Yeah, I think there's one.
I mean, across the street, is that what that is?
Yeah, so you'll have one hopefully here between at the fire station,
Health water wells.
the wells, and the lift stations.
City Hall, we don't have one to have a siren going.
No, but we're seeing if there's a way to maybe loop.
It's turned in for the fire department because of the tornado siren and fire departments.
Yes, it's on
We do need more.
the
We
main.
need 2 more tornado sirens.
Across the city.
Go
Yeah.
outside for it. Siren.
So those are the revenues, and then here's the expenses and how they kind of break out. So you see there kind of where we're at with the 2024 expenses on the CIP side. The next one coming here soon, before we know it, we'll be hopefully getting some bids on the sidewalk for the Safe Routes to School project with TxDOT. That's that 637,000. That's a reimbursement project. We are pretty much done with the water plant phase 1 of the elevated storage. They just need to do some closeout stuff at the end of probably I think it's next week, June 3rd. We're hoping to have everything back operational with the elevated. We're looking at doing the ground storage tank and then seeing if we can get the pumps. I want to see where that 1.6 is coming. Oh, of expense. So based on what we have from revenues and then expenses, there'd be a 1.799 fund balance, but most of that being from the Texas Water Development Board for the design, because you're not going to expend it all in 24, so then it moves into 25 to do expenses in 25. And then hopeful wishing of water line replacements of $500,000 for VDOT, which was one that we just submitted on as well. And then
I'm having a brain work. What is SRTS?
safe routes to school. Safe routes to school.
That's that sidewalk project.
Where are those sidewalks going in at?
Okay, you know where the Bulldog is on the front of the, so basically from that corner right there, straight down Professor Powell all the way to, you know where the funeral home is? So the street, right by the funeral home, that's Evie Street. So right across Evie Street, all the way down to the post office.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, it's
So will that include a crosswalk over the?
something, I don't know.
It won't be a crosswalk. We tried to get them to do one. They are pretty adamant about not putting one in, like a signalized.
And you have to have a crossing guard and all that stuff.
Yeah, so what they're essentially saying is maybe some signage.
Signage.
Yeah, kind of like what they did in Granger. I did one in Granger. But it goes across 971
Oh, okay.
downtown area.
Yeah.
So
It'll have lighting as well.
it's 100%. It's 100% paid for, this project. 100% paid for by TxDOT, but we have to pay the bill first, and then they reimburse us. So that's only like downside to the city side because it's a big project, and so we could be writing some pretty hefty paychecks.
So we're trying to time capital. We're now finishing up this one. We'll be getting hopefully Wilco to then reimburse us for that project. Kick off this
To go to the
project.
next project.
Yeah,
And
and then possibly use some other, like some of the tax notes to maybe do the ground storage while that needs to happen.
But good job.
But yeah,
Lot
the
of
water tower.
information.
I was at the water tower this morning. Looks so much better on the inside. We got a lot of cleanup to do on the exterior. I met Shane down there. He locked himself out of the water plant. He went in, checked everything, called me. He's like, "Hey man, I think I left my keys inside." He never locked them.
Yeah.
Went
That's
ahead-
the tanks down there by Dollar General in there.
That's the one right over here by the railroad
Yeah, so if you take,
on Front Street
you
and
just go down Front Street, you'll see
Front
that
and
big
Jackson.
water tower.
the big golf ball. And so everything on the inside of the golf ball has been rebuilt.
Oh,
Like
wow.
all the pipe is
It was rust.
on borrowed time. It's bad. And so it's all stainless steel piping now, 12-inch all the way up to the bottom of the bowl. They cut the bottom of the bowl out, welded a new piece in there, put the new pipe in. It's all, the inside of the bowl has been completely sandblasted
Wow.
and repainted, and that's what they're. So the next week there won't be a whole lot of work in there because they have to give the paint like 7 days to cure. And so once it cures, they'll be back next Monday most likely, and then they'll do the disinfectant, and then they'll turn it over to us to fill up. So middle of next week we'll have both tires back on.
No water pressure, there's no complaining, no water pressure.
Yeah. Well, so far, man, we haven't had.
We haven't had,
Who's maintained it?
it's running on one elevated tower right now.
Yeah, they've been doing pretty good, and Shane's happy as a lark because when I talked to Night Integration when he was down there about putting in
Oh, yeah.
the PSI gauge and everything on the. I mean, it's already in. It's on our SCADA now. It's on the front of our SCADA. I mean, so once Mercer picks all his stuff up, we'll still have that PSI, and it sets. He's got the set point like it. So if it gets below 20, we have to issue a boil water notice, and so we'll get a notice at 20 PSI. And I asked him to do one at 35 PSI, so he would be able to cut it off before it gets to 20. You know, kind of.
Figure out what's going on.
Exactly. And so hopefully he can do two set points where he can have one at 35, hey, you're getting low, and then at 20, you need to issue. So that's
The SCADA system.
that's big stuff that we haven't had before. Just
It
wanted-
is unbelievable. I mean, for a town this size to have that
Pretty good.
is good.
in the past, we've just been issuing boil water notices off of
We think we have to issue it.
people on Facebook saying, I have no water pressure on, and then 3 other people chime in. It's like, okay, go issue a boil notice.
It's
We
based on the actual.
probably issued 100 more than we had to.
Yeah, so it's based on the pressure in your transmission lines, not necessarily your system. So there's a difference. And we've been just going, oh, no water, well water. And it's like, you don't necessarily have to do that.
So there was a person that worked here before that kind of disconnected sometimes. And didn't know how to run it.
Wow.
They got tired of being called in the middle of the night because it is as an auto dialer. And so once it reached a certain level, it calls like 7 people. Well, how do you get around that? You disconnect.
You disconnect it.
So you don't get the phone calls
Now
anymore.
it emails us.
Or
Now,
you fix it.
But now, yeah, we get an email and a text message whenever, we got certain different things like if there's a fault in the system, as in low water, well tripped, or just different.
So what happened on the last time that y'all thought everything was turned on, but there was really no water?
It tripped. It was
tripped.
excellent.
So it
But
tripped.
but this wasn't hooked up before that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now it's been
okay.
hooked.
It was
So
told
it
us.
would have alerted y'all and y'all would have fixed it just
I
like
mean,
that.
never mind.
It was the smallest little piece of equipment.
So Taylor canceled school over something that it tripped and required to go in and.
5 minutes.
Hit a reset and
And
boom.
reset it.
Yeah, but we had no choice that day because we had no idea. It
And
was
so
like, do we go get those kids or not?
Yeah.
and so we've already probably intercepted 3 different faults since we put it in. That we would have run out of water like that.
Oh, wow.
And so just in the last week or 2. And so it's working. I mean,
That's great.
Shane-
And it's such a small cost for such a
it
big
is just so
return.
stupid, man. That pisses me off. It's so stupid. But Shane is so happy about it. I mean, he's just geeking out over it. So
Well, and it also gives the mayor has access. And then one thing that I know that I was working with Night Integration on is there a way where if anybody if the mayor wanted to, if the public works superintendent wanted to, they can just go onto their computer and pull it up,
Yeah,
and they would look. And then the next step of that is being able to actually control it remotely. So he's gonna, I think, give me a foot on that. So then you don't have to leave your home. You can say, oh,
yeah,
we just need to do that. I need to turn on the pump.
yeah,
pretty cool stuff.
that's great.
It's very long overdue.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, what was more like, an example. So I've heard the 2 PD vehicles. I heard, Mini X, I heard signs.
they'll pick whatever car you want to drive.
Stop signs.
Yeah,
Street signs, stop signs.
On code enforcement, y'all gotta remind yourself, if you wanna, 2 things. I have a lot of, y'all wanna give the duties to somebody else, but I still gotta worry about the city at the aspect of how this is done.
Yeah.
When somebody is just coming here, is he just sending out letters, or is he just, because it's just like when you look at the transportation code, only a regularly salaried employee of the city can do abatement on public vehicle. And so you still end up doing the job. But also we need to make sure, y'all need to think about as we work on the budget, are we gonna put money into doing abatements? Because we're gonna have somebody out here send out letters or whatever they're gonna do. We'll talk about that
I know
when
they
we get
got
to that point. We need to have some kind of money in there. We just wasted somebody sending out people.
At least minimum 6, 7.
of old houses that just need to get knocked
Demo
down.
burnouts,
Junk vehicles,
junk
everywhere.
vehicles, overgrowth.
So that's something to think
Is there
about.
a number that you'd want to associate with abatement? The idea for this position would be they'd report to essentially the chief when they come in. Because then you know what's out there. They'd be able to, you could say, hey, go look at this, this, and this, write up letters, get it done. And then they'd be able to essentially bring the I mean, it could work, that's what we're trying to figure out with these is, do they essentially say, here's the violations, they get it to City Hall, and then they write the letters?
Careful, it's $200. Go right around and do that.
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful idea.
I got a
I think
list.
it sounds
That's what I'm
good,
saying.
It's just a matter
Bring
of
it in.
how,
but I just,
I just gotta figure out what they're doing.
who does the person work for?
that's what they're,
But, I mean, there's just a lot of things that I think,
I mean, if it was
It would
code
be
enforcement.
yeah,
nice.
what we talked about was having essentially a committee of sorts that they'd meet on a regular basis and talk about performance and things like that. Because then you can say, hey, here's the issues, I need them here more often. Do you really need them to come to Rosebud every other day, or, whatever it may be? And having a committee of all the cities having one representative, because they're gonna have a lot of bosses.
Plus, like
Yeah.
Chief was saying, I mean, on some of the codes,
They'll have to
that
learn,
person probably couldn't do it. It would still come down to Chief because he is the full-time, you're the one in charge, you're the one that's certified to do all that. So I would be able to really separate doing that. I mean, Chief's really gonna have to be involved in it.
yeah, they'll still
Because it's
be,
his butt on the line regardless on top of the mayor. So that would be I mean, you step on someone's property and you're not supposed to, that's,
be considered a city employee, right? Every city will have the same person, it's just a shared agreement of sorts.
Local agreement.
And yeah, there will be an interlocal, and then every city will have to get them insured and whatnot. They'll have to be certified as, code enforcement officers. So they'll have the qualifications to do the job and act on behalf of the cities. You're just not gonna,
One or just one person?
right now it's just one as a test.
Okay.
But then, yeah, they're looking at like 45, 56. So
You can apply.
Yeah, part-time job.
it'll be full time for this person.
That's all you need, another part-time job.
so are we pretty bad off? I can drive down some roads and go, yeah, we are, but
That's the reason I brought it up.
I mean,
It's
is
just
it-
a thought of thinking about that, are we gonna really focus on, no matter if we go with code enforcement,
It would
inside the
see
police department or outside, we need to figure out,
yeah.
stop wasting, I mean, because later we might send out a letter like, that man's still there.
I mean, are we
We're
gonna
not going
enforce
further
it?
in
exactly. Are you
enforcement.
willing to take it to court? Are you
Right,
willing
how far
to?
are we ready to do it?
Yeah, exactly. Are you willing to put a lien on the home? And so that's where the
But we gotta keep Bartlett beautiful, so. She's
And
gonna
we've
come down to
seen-
my little area right now. We're trying.
we certainly. I know that the chief did him and Swampy did a really big one whenever we were leading up to the cleanup, and I'm sure a lot of those folks came hopefully in compliance. We've got some people that we're working on getting them into compliance, and they've been a long time, violators, not the code. But there's going to be, you've got homes that have been burned down that aren't safe, but you need to eventually
Need some done with them.
to get demoed. If the city doesn't have the funds to get demoed, then the other option has essentially been, that I've looked at is, can we put it on tax sale? If they haven't paid their taxes, can we say, hey, MBVA, is this a home that you might consider putting on a tax sale? The thinking then someone would buy it, they'd hopefully demo it. I know that I've already seen 2 demo permits come from tax sale. And so, I mean, that seems to be working.
But we gotta have someone in-house to go that far as well,
As far as,
is following through with all these
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be not the position of the person that's sitting.
yeah, and that's one where the houses that are kind of dilapidated and whatnot, you probably ask the permit clerk. They can start building that relationship with MBPA. So I know it from what it seems like, the city here now has had so much back tax that they're actually willing to go after some of these properties. Whereas probably 2 years ago, they were refusing to do any sales here in Bartlett because there just wasn't enough for them to be in. And luckily, it's the same firm that does Wilco and Go.
Okay. That's something I'm not think of.
Yeah, 'cause I don't know how many homes got sold recently. was it like a total 20 maybe?
What was that?
We looked at
Two
some.
with this.
Yeah. 15 to 20 maybe in this year.
And they had the most. They had 20, 30 that I wrote up and sent to them.
Whatever just happened to Tommy Hill's house?
Bank owns it.
I just don't want to kind of throw that out there. You know, we need to start to think about, you know, what direction we're going to go. If we're going to put money into abatement, and also is it going to be like, okay, do we want to work on a certain, like, let's just say you have 3 burnt down houses and it's $20,000 to get rid of them. Let's just say $20,000. Say, okay, this year we're going to at least try to do 2. You know,
Yeah.
we need to kind of come up with some kind of number, because it's not been in the last couple of years numbers to do anything with. You can go
So
out
what
and
would,
look.
what would be, a good number, what would,
I guess it's saying 40,000.
Yeah. I mean, if we just started with something and say,
For the
okay,
burned
we
down houses,
broke
yeah.
down.
'Cause you'd have to get a crew to go in, demolish, and
Depending
then
on
clean
what
up.
was burned down on the crew that goes in.
What-
Depending on what was burned down and what the crew would have to go in,
Yeah,
would be the expense number. I mean, like right now, you know, the school, we're doing the abatement on the school, and because it has asbestos in it,
yeah.
we had to do something totally different, you know, so we really have to watch numbers, and it's gonna be different.
From a cost recovery, is that one where you put it on a lien then? Here's how much was spent? Yeah.
Put a lien on the property.
You have to
though.
put a lien
For that
on it.
amount. Because if someone does buy it, they have to pay that out.
Even if it goes to a tax sale.
Yeah, they have to pay.
Yeah, then they have to pay, so.
I mean,
So
but you're
there's-
not gonna look at, no time soon. You're looking
No.
at
Yeah,
years from now,
But
At least there's some
but
kind
at
of,
least it's cleaned up. That's our
Cleans
purpose.
it up. the neighbors are happy and
Safety.
Yes,
neighbor property values will probably go up due to the fact that we're cleaning up a burned out house across the street from it.
Yeah.
So it will pay for itself.
Eventually, yeah.
Uh,
Probably 50,000 on it at least.
one over there behind PD by the school, that one's probably gonna be,
that'll come up like what?
that one will probably be about 7,500 to clean up. I'd say the one down here would probably be 10. And then that one over here would probably be another 7,500.
I think with 30,000 to 40,000, you could do quite a bit on those low hanging fruit ones.
Start.
Yeah.
So the burn down ones will be the bigger expense, and those may be ones you wait on. Just try to clean up other ones if you can.
You still have overgrown property.
There's one on Clark Street that I know I've talked about too. I know the grass is getting pretty up there. I don't know. I just drove past it today, and the grass was the tallest out of the whole block. So it's on the left hand side when I'm driving out of town.
when you're done downtown, and then
We have one emergency abatement on that road. Right now.
What about that one with the RV in the front?
Where happened to that?
Pretty sure they're living in it.
Anything else on the budget? I'll make some changes and email
Yeah,
it out.
add some money in there for
Abatement.
abatements.
Yep.
Other than that, I think we got a really good start.
Yeah. Sounds good.
You done with that one?
Yes, sir.
Y'all want a break or y'all good?
You're almost to the finish line.
All right. Regular agenda, review, discuss, and consider action on consideration and possible action to approve resolution 2024052701, amending and adopting the personnel manual.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I have some, and this is my fault, I'm just slow. I don't have any problems with, doing the legal stuff that we need to bring up to speed. But I think because we are getting a new city administrator, I think we need to table this and hold off until that person gets here. And we go over this again and see if that person has any input on it. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion.
Do it again. So are you wanting to hold the legal stuff until we redo it
I
again?
think we need to hold it, there's no need to do the legal stuff and then have to come back and do this other stuff. If we do the other stuff,
I agree.
let's do it all at
separate
once.
resolutions.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do it all at one time.
So table that
I
discussion.
think my motion is, unless anybody has any more discussion, I make a motion that we table this until we get a new city administrator.
Ms. Cooper's got a motion on the table. Table?
To table.
So,
Gail seconds the table. All in favor to table? All against? Carries 4-0 to table it. So we'll table this until after new hire.
And have we had any luck on that position?
There was a pretty good one that I think came over the weekend. Did you see that one, Mayor?
Yeah. All right. Item number 3, this is where we talk about that. Consideration and possible action to create a hiring committee for the city administrator position. So what we've done in the past is we've created a committee of mayor, usually 2 council members, don't want 3 because we have to host a meeting. 2 council members, mayor, and maybe a department head, do a citizen, however y'all want to do it. So we just need to create a hiring committee. Who's going to be on the hiring committee? Because we are getting resumes in. We've got 4 so far. We've got 4 so far right here. We are getting resumes. We need to do something, start, set a date to start interviews so I can respond to these folks and let them know that we'll start interviews on X amount of date. We're going to accept the applications till this date. We'll set interview dates, times, whatever. We just need a hiring committee. That's like
I would
I
like
would like
to
to
be,
volunteer also.
yeah, I'd like. to
that's
be.
so that's like so that would be like as one interviewing, and then recommendation to council to hire, and then of course council can do a full council interview to the.
So can Myra be on this
Finalists.
one as well?
Do what?
She probably won't be
So that she can ask
here.
the questions that are needed to be asked.
I mean, it's
You know,
kind of just depending on when you'll start to interview. You could start to interview some of these as they're coming in because some people who are applying for these jobs are not applying to one, they're applying to many, right? And
Right.
it's a question of timing. So the quicker you can be, the faster on the draw, the better.
So I mean, that's fine if that's what y'all want to do. In the past, the outgoing really hadn't been in the interview process, but if that's what y'all choose to do as a council, it's fine by me. I mean, she can sit in if she's available, or she can feed y'all questions that you may want to ask.
But I'll work with whoever you hire. I'll try to work with them on just bringing them up to speed on anything that the administrative side mainly.
So
I'd like to be on
we have 2 volunteers over
it.
here.
And he said he'd like to be on
You want to be on it? That's fine by me. I mean, you can have two members of council. If we do 3, we have to post every
You
meeting.
wanna-
We'll let them two be on it.
But you wanted to be on?
Go ahead.
So y'all
One of y'all can't make it, then I can sit in.
Okay,
alternate. Okay. I like it. I like it.
what, make a motion? Do we have to have a motion on this, Chad?
Do you want to have
Do y'all want to do? What we do?
Shelton as an alternate too, or
We could.
Who?
Uh,
Oh, Sean, okay.
just because he's not here and my fault for not sending him the
And then
digital
you said
agenda?
a department head, that would be chief, right?
Mhm.
do y'all want to do a citizen, or do y'all or not? I mean, we haven't.
I would rather not.
Okay. And then we have this is the committee, and then 2 alternates. I guess the alternates would go Gail, Shelton, then Jesse. If the other, one of the other ones aren't available, is that fine by y'all?
Jason said, did I volunteer?
Well, he didn't, but
He's like, I don't think
in case the other two aren't available and there's somebody up here not available, then we can have, that'll be the order.
So alternate would be Gail and then Jesse, right?
Shelton and then Jesse.
Gail, Shelton, then
Oh,
Jesse.
Gail, Shelton, and Jesse.
And then, just in case somebody's not, two people aren't available, then three, I guess it would be. Anybody else?
And if Shelton, since he's not here tonight, if he feels like he would want to be in on that, I'll step back. I mean,
Okay.
you know.
Y'all don't want to have a citizens committee? I mean, there's so many people out there that telling us how to do our
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
You're so special.
I mean, no.
Do I?
I'm like, I'm sure there's some that would love
Myra's
to be
got a
on
list. So,
Names that off the top of my head.
the action is to set the hiring committee, interview committee as Vicky Cooper, Jackie Abachek, Chief Holt, with alternates in this order: Gail Jones, Shelton Gilmore, and Jesse Luna. And do we have
Where are
a
those people from that we got deals from, what towns?
all over? One's from Taylor, one's from Temple, one's from Lubbock, and one's from
Love it.
Temple, Lubbock. This one's from Rockport.
Can
Do y'all have a deadline that y'all looking
That's-
at?
That's what I was gonna say, to start, do we want to accept applicants to a certain date?
When did we actually set it out?
The day
The
after.
day after the
no.
last meeting.
So it's been
The
2
14th,
weeks, it's
yeah.
been 10 days. I think we need to
14th.
start. We need to
24th?
get on this right now.
What is today's date? I don't know.
Today's the 27th.
Y'all want to wait until the 1st to see if we got any more coming in
That gives
between
us,
now and the 1st?
that gives us 2 weeks.
Look at a
with-
calendar, y'all.
That gives this person 2 weeks with my. I
Well,
said
you
we
can
need to
look at
know,
them
not
first,
that.
and
No,
then
I
it
was
comes
saying
back with the
13th.
council
I
on
know,
the next
we're on the
meeting for our.
27th.
She's saying now, not the first, but.
Yeah.
Well, then you
no,
have
that
to
would be on the
consider
next
their-
agenda.
They have to give 2 weeks
They
notice.
may, they may have a contract that they give 30 days like she did.
I don't think any of them that we've seen so far would have a contract.
Okay.
Well, you still, if you interview after the first, you won't have the first meeting for it to come to the council for executive session
Until
until,
the 10th, yeah.
We need to get on it as soon as
unless you
possible.
have a copy.
And maybe
So
you can-
June 1st, June
With the
1st
college
is Saturday. So do y'all want to accept applications the rest of this week until Friday, the
Yeah.
31st? And then I can reach out to whoever the candidates are at that point on the 3rd, set up interviews hopefully that week.
Yes.
And then, I mean, I know that only gives us like a week before Myra leaves, but or do y'all want to do what? Or do y'all want to do something sooner?
I think we need to start interviewing who we have.
I
And
There's no,
I think you're right. I think we need to start this week calling these people and setting up an interview. Those that, I mean, they're out of town, Lubbock, Rockport, all of that.
Yeah.
Set up and get it started.
and
Y'all-
then if we
You can come up with anything.
look at this one and all of us go, what were they thinking? You know, we all make a saying, what were they thinking about applying? Then we'd still have that extra little bit of time, because you're not gonna put it out there that you're gonna accept applications till this time, are you?
No.
Yeah, so let's just go ahead and start, my opinion is to go ahead and start
Now.
now.
All right, so I'll call them tomorrow after my inspection and start setting up as early as possible. Is there a time that works best? Is late afternoon okay with y'all, like after 4 p.m.?
That's fine.
After 4 p.m. okay?
Oh, yeah,
It's gonna be tough. I mean, I got like a super busy schedule right now at work, so.
yeah, so do we.
So if we can do after 4 p.m. or even at 5 or whatever, it's fine
That's
by
fine
me.
with me too.
Okay, you go with that? what time your kids out of school? When they get out?
You're out of school.
Okay, fine.
I'm break, we're good now.
Leave me alone.
We're good.
Thank goodness.
Okay, so we'll do that. I'll start calling them tomorrow. So we do have a motion. Gail made a motion, and that's hiring committee. And Jackie has seconded that. All in favor? Passes 4-0.
I'll make a motion for adjourn. Is that my job?
She's a pro now.
Hey, she's gonna say, it. As soon as that last one's over, you say it.
Do we have any future agenda items before you do that?
I don't see it on here though.
What?
It just says adjourn.
That's all.
Sound like James
Any
trying to
future
get
agenda items?
Oh, gosh.
Just more tax stuff, or
Yeah.
budget stuff. Tax numbers,
So, yeah,
budget and taxes.
to bring this back essentially as with updated numbers.
Now you can make your motions, Jackie.
Now I can? Are you sure?
Unless everybody invests.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
The only question I've got. you
Me
might
and Bob.
say it,
I'll
The
say
big, deal down on Clark Street, it's got a big hurricane. Who's responsible for that? Is that the gentleman?
Tech stop.
We've adjourned,
Get
right?
ahold of him, tell him to get rid of it?
We'll call a meeting